Hello, friends. My name is Melody. Welcome to Melody's Musings. Just warming up my hands a little bit here, my little Himalayan salt ball. I made it to video 5! Yay! Today I have a story for you that I call my Act As If story. And it has a little twist to it called the ripple effect. Let me give you a bit of backstory here. 6 years ago, I retired from a 20-year career working under contract to NASA for a world-class aerospace company. I supported the International Space Station, known as the ISS program, for that entire 20 years. So over my career, I ended up kind of hopping around from team to team and position to position, serving in a wide variety of roles. But for the most part, I was on technical teams working with engineers and supporting them and various management teams. 3 of the years that I worked there, I was on the communications team, which is what I started out thinking was the place that I belonged. That didn't turn out to be the case, but that's a story within itself. My point is that I was working on the comm team, which was a very small but talented team. I primarily supported the community relations sub-team, focusing on STEM projects, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, as part of that effort. And as part of that effort, I supported ISS engineers who visited local classrooms to talk about careers in the space industry and space exploration in general. I also served on the Employee Community Fund Board during those 3 years, which meant monthly to make decisions about where and how voluntary donations from employees to local community agencies would be spent. I learned a lot from that experience. There were aspects of the job that I enjoyed and others that I didn't. One day, after serving 3 years on the comm team, word came down from the corporate office that everybody who served in my position related to communications across the company was being issued a pink slip. The department was downsizing on a national scale. So soon after that, I got a call and was asked to come to my manager's office. He was such a wonderful person. I really enjoyed working for him. He was the government relations person for all things related to the ISS and space exploration, kind of a liaison from the ISS program to Washington, D.C. I could tell that he didn't have good news. His head was hung low, and he quietly said to me, Melody, the corporate comm team is eliminating all the positions of all employees at your level across the entire company, so unfortunately, I'm here to give you your pink slip today. Your job here will end 60 days from today. For most people, that kind of news is, it's absolutely devastating. And there was a fleeting thought in my mind about that. But for the most part, I've lived on very little income for most of my life. And so my thoughts immediately went to who my true source was. And it was not that company, nor was it NASA. My source has always been my Heavenly Father. He is the one who has provided for me for my entire life. So that's what came out of my mouth. I said to him, well, don't worry about it. I recognize that this company is not my source. I could say that to him because he was also a believer. After I left his office, it took like the next couple of days to process everything, and yeah, there was a bit of fear there. But I wasn't too worried about it because At that time, my family and I lived very frugally. We saved a lot and spent very little. So in the week that followed this news, I was praying about it, and I asked God what else He had for me. I mean, this job is ending. What else do you want me to do? And He spoke to my spirit, and He said, just as clear as day, He said, Melody, I want you to act as if you are not losing your job. I was like, okay, well, I don't know what that looks like. I'd never lost a job before that, so I didn't have anything to compare it with. I immediately got this impression that I was to square my shoulders, hold my head high, make eye contact, and smile at coworkers, as if I was not losing my job. So that's what I did. I did apply for, some other positions within the company because I really didn't want to have to go outside the company for employment at that time. But just a few days before the end of that 60-day deadline, I got a call from HR saying that they wanted to meet with me in my boss's office. So I thought, okay, well, I don't know what that's about, but whatever. So when Friday rolled around, I walked into my boss's office, and there were 2 HR ladies sitting there staring at me intently. They looked at me like I was from another planet. Then they said, you're not going to believe this, but a new job that matches your skill sets just opened up today. Now, think about this. It was the last day of my 60-day layoff notice. They sat in silence and looked at me, waiting for me to respond. And I just pointed up and said, well, I do have friends in high places. They just sat there with frozen expressions on their faces like, what do you mean by that? Okay, so let's recap. The very day that was my last day on the old job became my first day on the new team. I was making a lateral transition from the communications team back to engineering and technical support. They said to me, do you know how often this happens? I shrugged my shoulders. I didn't have a clue. They said, it never happens like this. The timing was so perfect, which didn't surprise me because my Heavenly Father's timing is always perfect. And so that morning, I spent my time packing up my old cubicle in moving boxes, and during my lunch hour, I moved over to the other building, and then I set my whole, cubicle up over there. And this was always a big deal for me because I always decorated my cubicle. People used to tease me about it because I had lamps and posters and household decorations and more. I told others, well, I spend so much time here, it has to feel like home in order for me to feel comfortable. But one of the things I learned through that challenging experience is that when it feels like disaster is about to strike in any area of your life, it's a matter of taking a step back. Don't panic. Don't freak out. Just seek divine guidance. Tell yourself, just take a deep breath and release the stress, worry, and anxiety. When I did that, every time I do that, instantly I felt a blanket of supernatural peace come over me. Yeah, even though the first couple of days were rough after I got the news, after that it was me, squaring my shoulders, head held high, smiling and interacting with others just like I'd always done before, believing that what God told me was true. Okay, so the ripple effect part of this story occurred about 2 or 3 months later. That same manager who had just laid me off was given his 60-day notice. Shortly after that, I went to his office to talk to him and to see how he was doing. We had become good friends over the 3 years that I worked there. I was concerned for him because he had a large family, a wife, 4 children, a nice home, new cars, and all of that. And he said to me, Melody, my normal reaction would have been to panic and flip out. But I watched how you handled the news of your impending layoff and remembered the act as if part, he said. I'm going to do the same thing. As a result, he soon landed a wonderful job from one of our competitors, and that job was way better than what he had had with our company. His new job offered better pay, and he became the liaison for that company to Washington, D.C. He ended up doing just fine. I believe he has since retired, but as far as I know, he was able to work at that same company until he decided to retire a year or 2 ago. So I tell this story because I think that it has a lesson in it for all of us. And I still have to follow these steps myself when I sense impending disaster in my life. I've dealt with a lot of hardships in my life. But through all the hardships, I firmly believed that my Heavenly Father would take care of me, because He is not a man that He should lie. And He is faithful to care for those who believe in Him. So, if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, I encourage you to believe in God and activate your faith, and miracles will happen for you too. This story happened in 2006. I kept that job for the next 10 years, and it turned out to be the best job I had ever held in the company. I ended up with the best manager and the best team that I had ever worked for. So it turned out to be a wonderful experience in the end. And I learned from that experience personally that God intended for me to be on the communications team for the amount of time that I was there, but He didn't intend for me to make a career on that team. I did learn a lot while I was there, so then I was able to take those skills and apply them to my new job, as well as life in general. Anyway, I hope you found some useful information in this story. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. I gotta go now. I have some Christmas decorating to finish up, among other things, in preparing for the upcoming holiday. I'll be back with another video soon. Thank you for listening today, and come back and see me again soon. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good night.